Well, I'll start with donating $2,000 to the town, my wife and I, to help to gain some clarity about what was happening in terms of the real numbers. We enlisted the services of a very good certified public accountant, Marcus. I've also worked with the train depot. I trust that people have appreciated the work that I've tried to do with the train depot, including I started out as liaison and became their president, and tonight I wore an apron and I dispensed wine. I've tried to, be diligent in my work with the fire department. I've met some wonderful people, very dedicated people. Look forward to working with others.
Mr. O'Neill, what other revenues do you see available to the town?
Well, along with the what I mentioned with stormwater and roads, the National Park Service should be contributing. I think, I'm not sure how much they contribute now, but they really should be contributing more. The roads that go through town are used by visitors all through the summer and throughout the year. That impacts all of our infrastructure, the roads and the storm sewers and the dunes and everything. So I think that they should contribute their share. There may be grants out there that I haven't identified yet, but I know that to do major roads projects here, we're going to need money from outside. We can't do it on our budget. So we have to identify roads or grants available from DOT or other organizations that may be available.
Mr. Bowles, since we only have one child attending the Michigan City school system and Michigan City won't release us, do you think perhaps we should form our own school system?
That's a good question. I really don't know, to be honest with you, but I know there's a big push several years ago to have our town be in Newland. But now I believe you can be in different school districts. I think you can float from one to the other. I don't think any longer you have to adjust to the school where you are in. I don't know enough about the issue, to be honest with you. I don't have children. That's an issue I don't know enough about.
Just letting our timer reset. Mr. Benson, in response to your questions in the stamp track about addressing financial challenges, you state accurate town clerk record keeping will result in increased revenue. What responsibility does the town council have in addressing the town's financial challenges?
So, remembering civics class, the clerk treasurer, there's two branches of government. The clerk treasurer is responsible for all the money and the reporting, and the town council is responsible for the budget and authorizing the big expenses. And so it's crucial that we know where we stand. For the last 8 years, we've been able to spend money with just having a hunch as to how much money we have in any line without knowing exactly what we've spent or what we have left to spend. And so it's a critical piece of knowledge that's missing. And once that is established, it's like you knowing whether you can pay your electric bill. Well, how much money do you have in your account? I don't know. I think we can pay it. And that's been pretty much what the position we've been in. And so knowing that the council can be more frugal and make better decisions more nimbly.
Mr. Nordstrom, please describe the most difficult decision you've made as councilman.
The most difficult decision I made was when we were taking a vote of no confidence about our clerk treasurer, Laura Sullivan. And I made the comment, and I still stand, that we work to seek to be redemptive, to take situations that are not good and try to do what we can to somehow redeem. I had to go with my conscience on that. I'm a psychologist, I'm an ordained minister. I have spent my entire life trying to work with people who are having difficulties, people who don't always do the right thing, people who don't take the time to do a good job, and I always try to find a way to work through into a better resolution.
Ms. Norcus, should a moratorium be placed on donation of private property to the town?
That's a very good question. Preparing for this, I found myself going back several years and looking at sand tracks. And way back in 2012, which I think was about the time that the current town council took office, there was a mention, and first of all, I just want to mention, Sandtrax is wonderful reporting on town council meetings. Whoever's doing it, you can go back there and revisit the past and have a wonderful time with it. But at the time, there was a presentation by the Green Space Committee, and there was a question, and I think they said, there was a question about tax dollars being, exiting because these properties were being donated to the town, and they said, well, it's no problem because there's only 7 properties in there. There have been several reports going forward by the Green Space Committee. I don't know how many properties they have now, but it's an issue.
Mr. Gans, what will you do to find funding for the town?
I think the keyest area is grants. We need, and another big item that really annoys me is the police department takes care of the Pines free of charge. It takes care of the National Lake Shore, it goes on service calls, and we don't get any money from them at all. I would go after them instantaneously. I think our budget is right around $260,000 a year for our police. I love it, they're here and they take care of everybody, but we've got to hit the people that can give us a little bit of money to feed that budget. Even if it's 10, 15,000, every ounce helps. And I think grants are critical. Tenaciously have to go after grants.
Mr. O'Neill, where do you stand regarding our local fire department? Keep it here or do something else?
Well, I definitely believe we need to keep our fire department here. If they become part of this more fire district, and that helps keep us solvent, keep the fire department here, keep the trucks, this localness of our fire department. I'm all for going that way. If it means keeping us here. We're the biggest town right in this little area, including this the district that we're talking about. And with our equipment, we supply a lot to the surrounding towns. Forming a bigger group will help us expand the money that we can provide to the fire department. And I think it's not a bad idea to expand into more of a small regional fire department.
Mr. Brown, in response to the question in Sandtrax about addressing financial challenges, you state that solving them involves education and collaboration. Could you be more specific about exactly what you're proposing to do?
The council needs to work together collectively to look at solutions that we have for the budget. We have congressmen, we have senators, we have other people that we can tap resources to find answers to these issues. I'm just not sure until the budget should write itself, they say, in about 2 to 2.5 years through the cycle. That's what most towns in this type of situation is what it takes. So I just think we need to be open to all kinds of monies that are out there, and just look for them. They're there.
Mr. Rolls, what specific plans do you have to improve the town's financial situation?
Well, I agree with Rob. That's a really good question, and it's a key question for the next council for sure. But I would say, I think we're going to have to do a line-by-line research of each item in the budget, for sure. I think I'll give you an example. There's a small fund we had last summer, we didn't have it this summer, which was the guest passes for residents of Beverly Shores. We sold those last summer, and if we would have done it this year, it would have been $2,000 to $3,000 worth of additional revenue. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's half of the park board budget. I think we need to go line by line through every part of our budget where we can make those kinds of changes. I think everything should be on the table, and I think that's a way we could increase our budget is by going line by line. This council's going to have, the next council will have their work cut out for them. But we definitely have the right talent, the right group of people coming together. Any one of the 8 people up here can look at that and do a good job. So,
Mr. Benson, what percentage of our real estate taxes does Beverly Shores get? And can we change the percentage so we can get more money?
I don't know the exact percentage, but the second part of that is no. If we could, that's ideally what we would. So unfortunately, we've elected some people into office in this state and on the national level that have changed our tax code drastically. So we used to be able to tap congressmen and senators to bring home the bacon and do grants. That has all been removed by Congress, and now the only person that can do that can do earmarks, is the President of the United States on a federal level as an executive order. On the state level, our the current House and the Senate and Governor have changed our tax code to, they did it a number of years ago when they changed the sales tax, and we have a 1% tax cap. That if we had hoped before of our taxes raising them, our school district one just ended that.
Mr. Gans, in your response to questions in Santrax, you state that there are many ordinances that open up the town to serious litigation. Can you be specific about which ordinances you're referring to in your answer?
Well, I think that the town is getting to a point where there's property, we see it for sale, that are very steep dunes, then we've got a steep dune ordinance. There's some ordinances that need to be looked at related to the building in town, because it's all it's going to take is one person, and you tell them their property is not buildable, they're going to file a lawsuit against the town, it will break this town and put this town into bankruptcy. So we've got to create ordinances, and it's specific to the building ordinances, that are fair, just, someone does a good job and a rightful job, however, we don't set ourselves up for liability. Those ordinances will set us up for liability. One big guy with deep pockets will crush this town in half.
Mr. O'Neill, in your report to a question in Santrax, you identify a binding referendum on West Beverly. How would improvements, if the majority voted in favor of reopening West Beverly, be paid for? Please be specific.
Part of the plan to address West Beverly would be to find out how, would be to assign a cost to each of the options that we have in West Beverly, and a source for obtaining those funds. Debbie Fritz, a person in town here, wrote a great piece in Santrax about 3 or 4 years ago now that listed 4 or 5 options, ways that can be paid for, the potential costs of each of those. That's a good starting point. I think that we should get a committee together of knowledgeable people interested in getting this done. We're going to have to identify the funding source through that committee. It's, I don't have one I can pull out of my hat right now, but that's part of what we need to do with this addressing West Beverly, is to identify that source of funds.
Ms. Norcus, in response to questions in Santrax about addressing financial challenges, you state that a comprehensive plan should be developed to address deficit, operations, and future capital needs. Could you be more specific about who and how this plan should be developed?
Sure. The first step in the process was to find out where we are, and we just arrived at the conclusion of where we are in terms of cash and fund balances. Now we're in the middle of, or close to the end of, our first full year of timely and accurate financial records. Once we get to the end of this year, because things don't happen evenly during the year, you need a full year's worth of information to be able to see where we are in terms of meeting line items in a budget. You look to raise revenues where you can. Taxes, it's very difficult to squeeze any more from there. We have limited, parking ticket revenues and parking permit revenues and ticket revenues, and those sorts of small things.
Mr. Benson, what has the council been doing to recover the former clerk's late fees and penalties?
So there is some negotiations in progress. It has been turned over to the state's attorney, and the state's attorney will be pursuing it. The likely outcome of this is that there will be a suit. She was bonded. They will sue the insurance company. The insurance company will pay us in a couple of years, and then they will recover their costs as best they can and raise our insurance rates. So that's probably the best thing that we can hope for is a couple of years from now we'll get that money through our insurance company.
Mr. Nordstrom, in response to a question in Sandtrax about addressing financial challenges, you stated we can create revenue streams by providing services to visitors. Can you be specific about what services you are referring to in your response?
We, every year, have hundreds, if not thousands, of people who come to the beach. They come to the campground. I see them walk from there down to the beach. For many years, I thought, why couldn't we sell something to them? They're here. They're not going to go away. They're here. When I was a boy, we built hockey rinks. We built swimming pools because our town, our city, Bloomington, Minnesota, had the liquor stores. And all the profit of that went into the community. I thought, well, maybe we sell some hot dogs that have biodegradable paper napkins and just to be very environmentally sound about it and to try to make some money because the people aren't going away.
Mr. Bowles, over the last several years, the police budget has risen, yet the fire budget is always cut or flat. What is your response to this?
Well, that is a tricky issue. I know that the fire budget has stayed at $33,000 a year in the contract, I think, for the last 4 years. I don't believe that the police budget has increased that much either. I really don't believe it's increased that much with the fire budget. And then also with the fire budget, you also have an $8,000 capital investment from the CCD fund to also go towards that contract. I would like to look at all options that we can to increase the fire budget, but I think there has been discussion, and I think Brian mentioned earlier, to create a fire district. I think that's something we need as a town to look very seriously at combining our services with the Pines, to pick up the tax base of all of Pine Township while keeping our station here and our equipment here and spreading that tax commitment throughout all of Pine Township and have a station in the Pines the station here in Beverly Shores, and we have that additional money coming from all taxpayers. That's why.
Mr. Brown, how would you get more non-resident homeowners to participate in Beverly Shores?
Participate.
How would you get more non-resident homeowners to participate in Beverly Shores?
That's a question. We have several groups. We have ABSR that brings people into town for our events. We have all the grandkids that come into town for the Halloween in the park. We have Holiday Hop that is open to people. There are all sorts of events that we host in town. We have a beach that people come in for the weekends. Our town is used quite frequently by a lot of out-of-towners. I don't think we have any issue with having non-residents. We have a lot of non-residents every weekend during the summer.
There's a question here that I'm asked to ask each candidate, and it looks like we have time if we could just start at this end and give everybody 1 minute. I don't know if everybody wants 1 minute. The question is, do you support or not support? But I'd like to give everybody 1 minute if you'd like to elaborate other than support or not support. If you answer, and we'll start with you, Mr. Bowles. So I'm asked to poll all the candidates on whether or not you support continuation of deer culls. So if you could do 1 minute for Mr. Bowles, and then you just want to say support or not support the continuation, but in case you'd like a minute to elaborate.
I absolutely support it. We have a neighbor where I live on Ripplewater, and their daughter has Lyme disease, and she suffered with that for a long time. So when we first moved to town, we were warned. They called deer out here, and they thought we were these Chicago guys moving to Beverly Shores. I support it. It's good for Tom's birder. It's good for ground nesting birds. It's good for our wildflowers. It's good for biodiversity to have all the wildlife in check and in balance. So I support it.
And Mr. Manu?
I also support the deer call. When we first moved here in 2004, the deer population was overwhelming, and there was no vegetation up to like 6 feet high, all the trees everywhere you look. And there was wires around our house, electrified wires, to keep the deer out of the yard. I took those down over the ensuing years because you don't need them anymore. The deer are healthier. There's fewer of them, but they're much healthier. And as long as the hunt is done professionally and well organized, which it is, I've been to the town council meetings where it's been presented. The ERG is doing a good job of making sure that that's well done. And I think if they continue to do that, then I don't see any problem with continuing to develop.
I hold a certificate in environmental law, and one of the basic tenets of environmentalism, and especially from the legal side of it, is the concept of balance. I agree with everything that's said about the need to maintain balance. One thing that I do think should be looked at, and it may have been looked at, I don't have the answer for it, is how we work with the National Park Service and the state park, and who are also doing calls. And whether it's consistently necessary for us to be involved, or if there's something that they started to do that maybe changes the equation a little bit. So I'd like to look at it a little bit further, but in general, I support the notion of maintaining balance.
Mr. Norton?
I'm in support of a call. I've been in support of it since its inception. I remember seeing deer where you could literally see the ribs on their sides, not unlike the advertisements you see on television showing animals that are being abused. I mean, these animals were starving, and there just wasn't enough food for all the deer. Also, there's a safety issue. I know, I'm not talking out of turn, my wife has hit a deer, I have hit a deer, so we've caused damage to our cars. It's also a safety hazard. If somebody hits a deer, there's always that small possibility that you could get severely injured or something even worse can happen. I think that if the deer are harvested ethically and the meat is given to people who will eat it, I think it's fine.
Mr. Gantz?
When I growing up here, we had deer everywhere. The deer, in comparison to how it was when I was born in 1970 through the 80s, it doesn't even touch it. So at this stage in the game, there's absolutely no reason for a deer call, I feel. All you have to do is sit out at night, wait for that train to go by, and you hear coyotes going crazy. They are handling the population. Mother Nature's handling it all itself. So I see no reason at this time for any form of a deer call.
I think the deer call should be kept on the books as far as the ordinance goes or the regulation of it in town. However, I think that with what the National Park Service does on both sides of our property, they do a fairly good job of the call, because last year they didn't take very many deer out of our town at all. But I think that we should look, if you're looking for revenue, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, the town pays for the flyover counts of the deer, and I think that should be sent to somewhere else. I mean, if everyone is taking care of that.
I supported, I'm a charter member of the Environmental Restoration Group, and Bob Baglin did a great job getting that thing going, as did everyone else that is a member of it. It's grown to much more than just killing deer. They're doing a lot for the environmental restoration. I think that the monitoring of it and the continuation of it are necessary, and I think that when we back off, the population rises, and the flyover is our mechanism for monitoring that and seeing if we need to keep it up, but we need that option all the time.
Mr. Gantz, in sand tracks, you mentioned wanting to make changes to school taxes. What are our legal options?
You know, it's something I've got to dive into, but one thing that annoys me is 50% of our tax dollars from our property tax goes to the Michigan City school system. That's a problem for me, especially when we only have maybe a handful of kids going to Michigan City. So I'd like to see those funds allocated someplace else. I'd like to see them more in the Chesterton direction, and I'd have to dive into the legal aspect of it, but I feel like 50% of our taxes going to Michigan City is a little bit rough for me. Just don't.
Mr. O'Neill, why should we extend West Beverly Drive through the Grit Marsh? What need would be filled?
You know, I haven't stated personally what my preference is for West Beverly Drive. We asked about where would we get funding if we were going to open it up for traffic. I live right there facing West Beverly Drive. I'm not happy with it being a footpath and bike path. I don't want it to be in the condition that it's in right now, falling to pieces. But I don't think it's up to me as one of 5 people to dictate to the town what's going to happen to that road. This is why I proposed a special committee to get together and decide, in a referendum in the town, to decide what we want to do with that road. Because my opinion is just my opinion. I like the quiet that's out there now. And when we first moved in, it was open to traffic, and you know, it wasn't bad, but I kind of like the way it is now. So my opinion is I would like to see it remain a footpath and bike path with lots of improvements, but it's up to the town to decide, not me.
Mr. Bowles, would you be comfortable defining the role of the town attorney?
Well, we do have a job description already on our website that does outline the role of our town attorney. If by broader means you mean should the town attorney be respectful and treat people nicely at meetings and be very civil, yes, I think that's something we should insist on. And also treat the clerk treasurer in a civil, professional manner as well. Beyond that, I think the job description speaks for itself. I mean, I think it's there, anyone can look at it, it's on our website, our town website, so. Beyond that, I wouldn't delve too far into that, except I would insist on civility at meetings and treating people professionally for any town attorney.
If you'll bear with me, we've gone through all of the questions, and I should have sorted these. I'm taking out the ones that had specific people's names on them. And then I'm going to go through the ones that weren't specific, and then I'll ask them of different candidates. So, Mr. Benson, what other revenues do you see available to the town?
I think we need to be creative on some, exploring some options. There's some very, might be controversial options that the town porter is looking at, and they're looking at parking meters on the beach. We were in, I ride my bike around here every day in the summer and in the morning and throughout the day. And something that is underutilized is our Bravura Plaza. And I know that it's near and dear to all of us, and we keep people out of there and write tickets, but it might be a cash cow, especially during the week during the summer, to put parking meters. And so if you were a resident, you would get a pass that would make it, it didn't cost you anything. But if no resident was using it, which is pretty much every day during the week in the summer, it sits empty, and it's probably the most valuable real estate in Indiana.
Mr. Brown, please describe in detail specific contributions you have made to the town in the past 4 years, and please be specific.
I've been president of the park board for the last 2 years. I've been a member of ABSR. With the park board, there always comes time we need to have maintenance done. So I found a creative way to get electric service extended into the plaza through an Eagle Scout project. I got another Eagle Scout project to tuck point the chimney and repaint the warming hut inside and out. And when all the people were complaining about no access to the beach, I had another Eagle Scout project that I got started, and we had the stairs built at Shore Avenue for the summer, in time for the summer season. You have to be creative when you have no money, so the budget got cut, so that's what we did.
Thank you. Ms. Norquist, please describe in detail specific contributions you have made to the town in the past 4 years.
Over the past 4 years, I served first on the ABSR board. I was also on the ABSR Community Foundation board and active in several of the committees there. In an official/unofficial capacity with the town itself, I've been working with the clerk treasurer, past, present, and future, trying to clean up the financial mess that was present at the time that I started. We've made great strides. I'll continue working with them on an as-needed basis, although my involvement is becoming less and less all the time as things get clearer.
Mr. Mr. Nordstrom, how would you get more non-resident homeowners to participate in Beverly Shores?
I think we've done a very good job. I am a past president of ABSR, the Sometimers organization. I assume when you talk about non-resident, is that what you're talking about? People who don't live here full-time?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that ABSR has just done the yeoman's job of getting people involved. We know that we value and we love the people who come and are with us, not full-time, but they come when they can, and they have made incredible contributions to our community. I mean, I've got the Bells sitting right in front of me here, and they spearheaded, you know, the Dark Sky Initiative. And ABSR then latched on and raised funds, and the council approved to bring it to pass.
Mr. O'Neill, how do you see the town council becoming involved in the preservation and showcasing of our natural beauty, be it woodlands or beach, and in managing established gardens and landscapes?
This is, I think Beverly Shores is one of the most stunning places I've ever been. We came here, like I said, 2004, and fell in love with the place for its natural beauty. We have groups in town, the ADSR, the Beautification Committee, the ERG, has done incredible work here with the removal of invasive species and the garden outside.